The Baylor Bears just punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament, but are they capable of more?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Baylor basketball post-game show. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Big 12 tournament, second round, Bears dispatch Kansas State easily. I mean, really weren't challenged much at all in the game. 70-56 is the final. There were points where it did not feel that close. And yes, I think we should start by saying it. Maybe Baylor did not have to be terrified of Kansas State. I mean, that's as comfortable as Scott Drew's had it against an old assistant ever. Like, that was the only negative thing, somewhat negative thing I'm going to say is, where has this team been? Like, that was a professional wire-to-wire 40-minute kind of drubbing, if we're being honest, against a Big 12 team that's desperate to win, that played you really tough on your home floor the first time. My goodness, this team stinks on the road. They're pretty good at home. Maybe they just needed to play neutral site games. Like, I mean, their biggest win of the year came in a neutral site, right? St. John's. Arkansas was basically a neutral site. Like, this team is in the tournament, but who knows what they're capable of before this weekend's out. They got Tech tomorrow. If they play like they did today, they've got a chance to beat Tech. They're not as good as Tech. Tech's much better than this Kansas State team. And most years for Baylor, I'd be saying whoever they're playing in the first round isn't as good as this Kansas State team. This year is not the case. But, man, this is as good as we've seen Baylor basketball play since fill in the blank. I said it after the Houston game on Saturday. If they can play that kind of defense and give that kind of effort for 40 minutes, they could get out of the first weekend. It would take upsets, of course. And it's baby steps, but this is the first game since then, and they did it again. They played really good defense. They gave you 40 minutes of effort. They wanted that game more than Kansas State did, and Kansas State was playing for their lives. And the other thing I said after the game against Houston on Saturday was, you still need more from your backcourt. You got more from your backcourt. Jayden Nunn, good to have you back. Hope it was a nice rest. We need you. Good to have you off the milk carton and back on the basketball team. How about that? This is the Jayden Nunn I thought we were getting this year. It doesn't erase that we haven't had him the whole year, but this is why I thought Jayden Nunn was going to be their leading scorer. 18 points, 4 of 6 from 3. All the threes come in the first half. He was aggressive. He was good defensively. He made great decisions offensively. And your backcourt woke up. 18 from Nunn, 19 from VJ Edgecombe, who was tremendous in this game, 9 from Jeremy Roach in a much more efficient night. You didn't have the big scoring from Rob Wright, but I thought you got some great Rob Wright minutes in 18 minutes of play. 4 assists, no turnovers. Take that off the bench. Jeremy Roach, 5 assists, no turnovers. In fact, Baylor for the game only committed 6, and Kansas State only committed 7. So it was a good night for Baylor defensively. I think that's what a lot of people are going to be talking about. But I thought this was as smooth and as smart as they have played offensively in a long time. They were making good decisions. They were moving without the ball. It didn't look like ISO ball at any point in this game. And your guards facilitated. They really facilitated. And if you're a team that can do that, guards facilitating and scoring a little bit, they didn't shoot the lights out from 3. They shot 33% from 3. And you were going to be an offensive rebounding team, then that's how Baylor can win in the tournament. If they're going to win it all, that's at all, not it all, okay? That's how they're going to do it. 10 offensive rebounds tonight, which was only 1 more than Kansas State. They were +5 on the glass in total. There's really not much I can pick from this game and say this was a negative for Baylor, if I can find anything. Gassan scored 20. He kept Kansas State somewhat in this thing, but I don't think he scored the last 12, 15 minutes of that game. He had 20 and 10. Good night for him. 8 of 9 from the floor. But the big guy that sticks out for Kansas State, Coleman Hawkins, man. They shut him down tonight. It's a kid with 26 last night. And I'm hearing, the broadcast, they're kind of surprised that he only had, 2 points in this game? 5. He hit a 3 at the end. Has had his first field goal with 6 minutes left in the game, first points. And the broadcast was saying, yeah, it was a quiet night from him. But to be fair, he has been banged up towards the end of the year. Like, he scored 26 last night. Okay? What did he get? Banged up walking to the arena today? They shut him down. In fact, that was a guy I really wanted. Kansas State got a couple of guys out of the transfer portal that I really wanted Baylor to go out there and get. Yenso was another one. He played 2 minutes tonight, literally didn't score. And Doug McDaniel was the other, and he had 14. But Baylor just kind of held him at arm's length, plus 23 in bench points. Write that down, because Baylor ain't going to do that again. They're not a bench scoring team. But that obviously comes from a big Jayden Nunn night. Outstanding, man. I couldn't have been more pleased with this performance from Baylor in a game that I really thought was going to be a struggle for them, if not a loss. But they went out there and we talk about Kansas State being desperate and needing the win. Baylor had to go in with the mentality of, guys, we've played with our food all season long. If we win this, we're in the tournament. And the rest of this tournament is kind of whatever. Obviously don't want them thinking that, but like, it's got to start right now. Like, there's no room for error, really. And they played it like a team that had no room for error. So I just thought that was fantastic. And we're going to keep this under 20 minutes here. So I'm going to the comments. Bear the Truth said the team we saw tonight did not resemble anything we've seen all season long. I couldn't agree more. Like Kansas State, that's not the toughest opponent they've played this year, obviously. But you saw how they played against them earlier this season. And again, like every other game, they played with their food and they almost lost. They needed 30 from VJ in that game to pull away and win. So no matter the competition, I don't think, or I shouldn't say that. I mean, maybe we've seen it against some of those mid-major teams, but in Power 4 games this year, we have not seen an effort like that and a performance like that from Baylor. So again, I think it's fair to ask, where has this team been? But if they're here now, past this one game, then we can get excited. We can get excited about what's coming up next week. Scotty B, 2 straight wins over Tang. Love that, man. The astronauts couldn't even win over Tang, and that's back-to-back for Scott Drew. Maybe kind of put the friendship thing aside and was like, let's beat this dude. And they've done it twice in a row. Love that. Bear the Truth also asked, do you think Kansas State really put the full effort out there on the court? I think they did. I just think they're not that good. Not as good as what we thought they were going to be on paper. In fact, going into this year, I think I had Kansas State as a dark horse just because I liked their portal additions. Dark horse to win the Big 12, I mean. But yeah, I don't think they're very good. They played last night, which that's kind of the nature of the Big 12 tournament, right? And we might be saying the same thing about Baylor tomorrow at the same time. But I think it looked like a team that did play last night, played a tough game last night, and isn't that talented or isn't as talented as Baylor. But yeah, I thought Baylor took it to them. I don't think it was lackluster necessarily from Kansas State, but they didn't look great. Baylor Mance's best performance since Abilene Christian. Yeah, maybe. And Scotty B says now we have zero pressure going into tomorrow. That's a big thing. Because again, if we're sitting here on Sunday or Saturday, whenever they play, I don't even know when they play it because Baylor never gets this far never gets far in the Big 12 tournament. But if we're sitting here in the weekend with Baylor's Big 12 conference tournament champions, I'll be really happy. Make no mistake about it. And I say that to say anything outside of that, I think the Big 12 tournament's dumb. I don't like it. I don't like major conference tournaments. I just think it's a waste of time for a lot of teams. Baylor's did not have that luxury this year, but now you've got that win across. Like Scotty says, no pressure. You go into a game tomorrow against a good team in Tech, and it's a way to kind of be a measuring stick, a barometer, because no one's going to expect them to beat Tech tomorrow. But if they put out the effort that they did in this game tonight, and their backcourt shows up similarly to the way they did tonight, then they'll hang with Tech. They'll give them a real game. And I really think that will open up the eyes of the guys in the locker room, of like, hey, even if they lose and they play really tough and they lose a 2-possession game, like they did against Houston on Saturday, they'll say, all right, guys, we know what it takes. We know what it takes. Tech and Houston, the 2 games that we lost, given this kind of effort, those teams can be in the Final Four. But if we're going to win a couple games in March in the big dance, this is going to be what it takes, and maybe just a little bit more. But we know we're capable of it. Everyone's telling us we suck because we played with our food all season long, and we deserve that. But here's the effort that it takes. And so I think that's interesting to go into this game tomorrow night. And if they knock off Tech, I mean, the confidence has to be through the roof with this team. But I know that's putting the cart way ahead of the horse, coming off a win against 16-16 Kansas State. But I mean, I know most of you will agree this team was searching for anything to give them some confidence at this point in the year, and they hadn't really shown a lot to us at any point in the year to give us a ton of confidence in them in these big games in March. That's why I was worried coming into this game. I said, this is a team that I didn't know if they understood that their backs were against the wall, and they have been for a couple of weeks. They were a nailed on tournament team 3 weeks ago, and then they lost to Colorado, and all of a sudden they're barely hanging on in the picture. And we said it this week, like they needed to win this game in order to get there. Kansas State also needed to win this game if they had any chance at the Big 12 tournament, or excuse me, the NCAA tournament. You're not going to get a really good team at this point in the Big 12 tourney. So you got a desperate team, and you took care of business. I mean, you really didn't even let them get close. I think there was one point where they got it to 8. Am I right in saying that? 8 in the second half. They made 6 straight field goals. But other than that, they really didn't break a sweat tonight. Like, they didn't get pressured by Kansas State. Kansas State pulled out everything. They tried a full court press for a good deal of the second half, and Baylor broke it with ease. I got to say, Jayden Nunn was our player of the game, if we can give that out on Locked On Baylor. But, man, when VJ's on, like that dude, at the end of that first half, he just said, all right, I think I'm going to put this game out of reach right now. And he just did it. He did it. And the all-time, like, good announcer jinx is that alley-oop dunk off the inbound where they're going through his draft grades and his measurables, and he's like, explosiveness, A+, huh? And then literally, like, they're throwing it up from out of bounds, and he's throwing it down. Now, after that play happened, I brought this up to say this. After that play happened, I don't know about you guys, but I was thinking, like, where has that play been all year? And it wasn't something I had thought about, so I can't be like, finally, but it's like, on an inbound play, like, there's going to be a guard covering VJ Edgecombe. Not a lot of guards can even keep up with his quickness, and nobody can jump with him. So if you start running that play, then defenses have to adjust. These inbounds, you got to put a bigger wing on him, or maybe a center, and that's going to open up, a corner 3 or Norchad on a roll, and he can get a layup instead of a VJ dunk. I think there's a lot there that Baylor has not necessarily capitalized on during the season of what a mismatch VJ Edgecombe is. Because you see that, it's like, dude, no guard in the league can jump with him. No guard in the country maybe can jump with him. So I love when he's in full attack mode, and you saw that. His finishing was great tonight. He had a couple big shots for them towards the end of the first half, and And Jayden Nunn was hot from 3 in the beginning. And Norchad, they didn't need a great Norchad game offensively to win an important game. And I think that was important. He does get a double-double, 12 and 14. It was an outstanding effort from him. But I think what did he do in the second half? I don't think he did much of anything in the second half. He had 2 points in the second half, 2 points, 5 rebounds. Like, he did his dirty work in the first half, and that was fine. Gassan scored on him a couple of times, but, I think that's an important note that you got something in a big game. You got a lot from your backcourt, which you haven't gotten in a long time, and you didn't need Norchad to go for 20 and 16. 10 and 14 still dumb. That's awesome. But you didn't need him to kind of play out of his mind. So I love that. I love that. Jim says, seems like this team might have finally found their identity. I hope so. It's better late than never. And I don't think if they have figured it out, I still don't think they can play in a Final Four. I know that's way different from a lot of our expectations. I think that time to have figured it out and start playing great basketball to hit that echelon has probably passed, but they certainly they more resembled what we thought they were going to be going into this season in the game tonight. In the last 2 games, they've done it defensively, and tonight they looked the part offensively. And Baylor, man, couldn't have put it any better myself. Getting hot at the right time. They don't ask how. They just ask how many. I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time. That's something you can take when you hit the pillow tonight. Maybe they're just getting hot at the right time. And this is an even better point by Scotty. Not enough depth for a Final Four. That's one of the issues. But maybe Sweet 16, depending on the matchup. I don't think that's out of the question. I think that would be a nice run for Baylor. That would be unexpected to get to the Sweet 16, right? You would need to pull an upset along the way, but it's not impossible. Because again, if they have found their identity and they are getting hot at the right time, there's a reason we were excited going into this season. There's a reason why they were ranked in the top 10 going into this season, and that is they have talent. They didn't put it together at any point this year, but they do have talent. So if they're putting it together now, they can pull an upset or 2 in the NCAA tournament. I truly believe that. And they'll need to pull an upset tomorrow if they want to keep playing in Kansas City. It's Tech tomorrow. Let me know what you guys think about this matchup in the comments below. Let me know what you think about how deep this team can make it in the tournament, which they have now punched their ticket to. Let me know in the comment section below. Guys, be sure to like if you like the video. Like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. There's still more than half of you that watch the videos, listen on the podcast, and are not subscribed to the channel. So definitely like and subscribe on YouTube. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're going live. It's going to happen a ton in March. I don't know if you've heard this before, but it's madness in March. And then find us wherever you find your podcasts as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. The Bears roll on. They will play past this weekend. I just feel good about that. I feel good about that. We have an episode dropping tomorrow with Sydney Wicker. We had to push her to Thursday. We're going to be talking some basketball. We're going to be talking a little tampering as well as the women's team and how far we think they can go, because Sydney was there in Kansas City and saw their reaction after the loss to TCU. So you won't want to miss that. That's coming up in the morning. We'll see you then on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.